The video footage, according to which he was shot in the back while running away from the soldiers.
My petition alleged that Entergy provided inaccurate and incomplete information to the NRC. Not only was the information provided inaccurate, it was materially false.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. The Struggle is shown on over 30 cable stations from Vermont to New York City, on the internet at thestruggle.org, our YouTube channel, Struggle Video Media. The video you will see is not at all bloody, but it's evidence of murder of a Palestinian teenager by an Israeli army officer. The video is provided by an Israeli group, B'Tselem, which documents abuses and killings of Palestinians. The victim is a 17-year-old Mohammed Ali Kaspa. On July 3rd, he was part of a group of Palestinians who tried to go to the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, but was turned away by Israelis. B'Tselem writes, on the day of the incident, the IDF spokesperson's unit stated that Colonel Shomer's vehicle was attacked by Palestinians who threw large rocks at it. Colonel Shomer felt in mortal danger and carried out suspect arrest procedure. Well, B'Tselem did its own investigation and found that the shooting that killed Ali Kaspa was unjustified and unlawful, and that the official version presented did not accord with the facts of the incident. Ali Kaspa sustained 3 bullet wounds to his upper body. 1 bullet hit the side of his face and 2 struck him from behind. The location and entry points of the injuries corroborates the details provided by the eyewitness accounts and by the video footage, according to which he was shot in the back while running away from the soldiers. The claim that Ali Kaspa posed a mortal threat to the soldiers at the time of the shooting, having fled the scene, is unreasonable. There's no doubt that the shattering of the Jeep's front window with a stone endangered the passengers when it happened. However, Ali Kaspa was shot in the back after the fact, when he was already running away and posing no mortal threat to the soldiers. Feeling a sense of danger is not enough to justify any action. The IDF spokesperson also noted that Colonel Shomer carried out suspect arrest procedure, yet this claim contradicts both the first claim that Ali Kaspa posed an immediate threat and the fact that the soldiers drove away without offering the injured youth any medical assistance. Runs counter to basic human morality. It's also a breach of military regulations, which require soldiers to ensure, to the extent possible, that the persons injured by shooting receive medical assistance. I predict nothing at all will be done to Colonel Shomer. The mood in Zionist Israel is utterly bloodthirsty, and it's that way in part because of near 100% support for Israel by Congress and Obama. There are constant calls in the Israeli media and social media for cruel measures, including executing stone throwers on the spot. Tony Greenstein from England wrote a piece about this. He quotes some breathtaking racism. Here's the Israeli Prime Minister. He's hoping to use our docile Congress to overturn the agreement between the United States and Iran about nuclear weapons. Be prepared for a slew of hysterical fear propaganda over the next couple months. But he also has a plan B. If he can't wipe out the agreement and get the United States to attack Iran, he will accept grudgingly compensation, $900 million, and your tax money for weapons to Israel. What do you think of this extortion Will you write about it to local newspapers or your favorite website?
On the move. My name is Ori Lumumba, and one of many people that will be in Newark, New Jersey, Saturday, July 25th, to be one of millions against police brutality and police terror in this country. We urge all freedom-loving, all freedom-fighting people to descend on Newark, New Jersey, Saturday, July 25th, millions against police brutality. Be there.
As you no doubt know, ignoring all concern for global warming and climate catastrophe, Northeast governors are committing billions to be spent on pipelines to bring methane gas for fuel to their states. Pipelines are doubling or tripling in diameter size. As part of the project, Spectra Energy has gotten permission to build a 42-inch diameter pipeline right next to Indian Point, the nuclear power plant upstream from New York City. Methane pipelines do explode from time to time. However, the experts have concluded we have nothing to worry. On July 17th, TSVN covered a press conference in Montrose, New York, of citizens and many town officials who are trying to get the government to withdraw permission for a pipeline next to a nuclear power plant.
And many of us in this room, probably everybody in this room, has been calling for an independent risk assessment of this very impactful project. And it was clear from all of our meetings and communication with the various agencies involved that they're not always discussing this issue with each other. We have the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission. We have the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. We have the EPA. We have the Federal Department of Transportation. We have the Public Service Commission of New York. We have the New York State DEC. And not all of them are on the same page and discussing this project together. And that's why we're calling for this independent risk assessment so that we know that if this happens, that it will be safe for our community and for the health of our residents. And until that's done, we're going to keep fighting this. At the end of the day, they may say that this is not a good project. Now, Paul Blanch has taken on a vital role in analyzing this project and offering serious critiques of the NRC evaluations. And Paul is, I'm going to give you a little background on him. He's a professional in the nuclear field, 45 years is nuclear power experience, a Navy submarine reactor operator and instructor, has a degree in engineering, professional engineer, Westinghouse Engineer of the Year, participated in the design of the Millstone and Connecticut nuclear plants, 3 Mile Island expert witness, and it just goes on and on and on. He's really had a wonderful background in this area, and so we're calling upon him today to discuss a lot of issues with us.
I'm going to read two statements right now that will probably provoke some controversy, and I'm going to read these two statements to the NRC also. From the NRC, I expect we all know that they absolutely refuse to come up here and have a professional dialogue with experts, and the only way they would do it would be a phone call. Most people are aware I've been involved with the gas pipeline and the risk associated with the gas pipelines to Indian Point since I was working as an expert witness for the Attorney General for the state of New York on the relicensing of Indian Point. But I tried to do my best, and I was told basically it was not my business to worry about the safety, and it's a security issue, and we're not going to give you any answers to your question. This was 2009, 2010. So when the new proposed pipeline came in, was proposed, I started looking at some of the data and saw some shortcomings, to say the least. So I filed a petition. And I filed a formal petition with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission related to a submittal that Indian Point had made to the NRC dated August 14th, 2014. And now the following I'm going to read, and I'd like people to listen carefully and ask questions after I read these two statements. My petition alleged that Entergy provided inaccurate and incomplete information to the NRC. Not only was the information provided inaccurate, it was materially false. That's a strong statement I can support. With respect to the 3-minute closure time, material in that Federal Energy Regulatory Commission based its approval on the entire project on this false information. This alone should be a firm basis for granting my petition. I allege false information was provided, and we have NRC documents that I'll show, if necessary, that says it was false information. These facts are discussed in the NRC's email dated April 27th of this year. The NRC, in defense of Entergy, recalculated the impact of a prolonged gas discharge by modifying its equation for the, I call it the pressure impact radius. I'm not sure what the proper name it is, but this, by the way, is interesting. This is the second time in the last 5 years that Entergy has been exposed for making false statements to regulatory agencies. I was involved in Vermont Yankee and some of the litigation that was going on there, and Entergy, in the litigation associated with Vermont Yankee, made a false statement about radioactive material in buried pipes, and they were sanctioned severely, and the vice president who made that statement I don't believe works for Entergy. The second statement I'd like to make is the NRC has threatened the safety of more than 20 million residents and the infrastructure of the greater New York metropolitan area, and risking trillions, and I do say trillions, of dollars of damage and possibly the U.S. economy by basing its safety assessment on a calculation that was recently obtained from the NRC under the Freedom of Information Act, another exhibit I'll have here. This new information confirms that the NRC calculation, which is in quote, was partially handwritten, unapproved, undated, unsigned, used fictitious, false, and unsupported assumptions. I can support every one of those words. This NRC calculation supported the FERC approval of the AIM project and the transportation of thousands of tons of TNT equivalent across the vicinity of Indian Point nuclear power plants. This back-of-the-envelope type calculation, which misled congressional representatives, FERC, and the general public, must be invalidated, and an independent, transparent, structured risk assessment, as outlined in the OSHA methodology, must be undertaken. The common thing that we're all saying is we need independent, transparent risk assessment conducted for the entire risk of the gas line and its impact on the environment and the people. Susan, what did I do here? Okay. Whoop. Okay, this shows an aerial view of Indian Point. I did go out and buy a laser, so see which one's a laser, which one's a pen. Yeah. This basically shows the new path of the 42-inch gas line going out here. The yellow line are the existing gas lines crossing Indian Point, and this will be the connection point for the two lines. These lines right here show different radii from, one could postulate an explosion anywhere along this line or anywhere along this line. If there's an explosion in the existing line, it's about 480 feet from the Indian Point Unit 3 structure, which is located right here. If we postulate an explosion in here, which is 105 to 115 feet from these vital structures, this being the diesel generator fuel oil tank and the switch yard. The NRC admits that if we have a rupture in this area, that these two components, the gas turbine fuel oil tank and the switch yard, will essentially be wiped out by the radiant energy in the blast. Wiping out the switch yard is one of the major contributors to core damage, according to the NRC calculation. But not only do we wipe out the switch yards, which supplies all AC power from off-site, we also wipe out the gas tank for the diesel generators. Now, I'll be the first to admit that the diesel generators have their own independent oil supply and will run for a few hours. However, the decay heat from, what's the matter? What did you do to me? The decay heat from the reactor will last for months, if not years. We still have sufficient decay heat from Fukushima, which happened in 2011, which still requires cooling. Now, I mentioned, and by the way, the radii of these circles, I believe this one is about 1,000 feet. This one might be 1,500, 2,000 feet. But you can see that a blast in this area would, even if we assume this is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 feet, we have calculations that show that the blasts, that the pressure impact radius will range anywhere from 800 feet, which is a number FERC came up with. And if one uses the NRC calculation or some of their references, it goes up to 8,000 feet. And this is why we need an independent assumption. I'm not a gas expert, but I can follow a simple equation, and I calculate somewhere in the range of 3,000 to 5,000 to 8,000 feet as the blast radius, the destructive blast radius. I said I had information. One thing I've been very good at is filing Freedom of Information Act requests, and this is one of them that I filed, and this is a response from the NRC. And we can see this is actually the NRC's analysis of the risk to 20 million people. This is what they gave me. This is incredible. I work for utilities, and I was cited with a violation at one time because I didn't sign it on time, and I was issued a violation. Here we have the NRC conducting a calculation that impacts more than 20 million people. And if you look through this calculation, there is no date, no author, no approval, no procedure. There's only one reference in here. Flammable gas ingress, that means unburned gases coming into the plant, blowing up ductwork and so on. There's no vapor cloud discussion. And the NRC conveniently changed the calculation from their own guidance, and I'll try to point this out. The actual calculation in the regulatory guide, for those of you who can see it, is this right here, where the distance equals 45 times the weight equivalent in TNT raised to the cubed root. I know that's beyond many of us. But for some reason, they introduced this new term into the equation, which is not in the reg guide. Now, this could change the outcome by a factor of 1,000, but the NRC won't even discuss why this factor is in here. So the NRC modified its own equation. So this, they can do whatever they want, and they do a lot of bad things. They did not analyze a lot of potential situations, such as a jet fire and a vapor cloud. Now, how do I go back to this? The other important document I have is when I said that the NRC told, or Entergy told the NRC that these valves in the gas flow would stop in 3 minutes. This is an actual NRC internal email dated April 27th of this year that talks about what Entergy said in their analysis and what other people have said. And we can see that here's from a National Transportation Safety Board study relative to the San Bruno explosion. What this basically says is that if a gas explosion occurs, one is not going to detect it without visual confirmation. Visual confirmation is one driving along the road and seeing a 600-foot flame. Visual confirmation is a control room operator goes outside and says there's an 800-foot flame. That's visual confirmation. Thank you, Amy. We talked to an operator, he wasn't even aware of the existence of the gas line. Anyway, this does confirm that rather than 3-minute termination, it's going to take hours to terminate the gas. Hours terminating the gas is going to cause more destruction. I wish I had more time. We can continue later. You'll hear a lot of this stuff in the meeting, but what I'd like to do now is try to respond to any questions and real.
Thank you for your presentation and your service, your advocacy for safety of the public. Seems clear to me and anybody paying the least bit of attention that Entergy is concerned only with their own profits and power and existence, and that the NRC serves to carry water for them and to continually lower safety standards, including wiring in case of a fire from 1 hour to 23 minutes, I believe. And that's expected. But what's not expected is the silence of our elected representatives to speak out on this issue and to make their voices heard to protect 20 million people and not serve this relative few. I called the office of Senator Schumer, Chuck Schumer, this morning and was told by the Washington, D.C. office after much problematic dialogue that a representative would be sent to this meeting.
He's here. Yes, he's here.
And I wonder if they have any words for the public about how the senator will represent us and the people who live around here in this bill rather than apologizing to the NRC.
Yeah, I'd like to just comment. I thought that was a very good question, but we have personally met with Senator Schumer's office and Senator Gillibrand's office and Congresswoman Lowy's office and asked for this independent safety or risk assessment with essentially zero results. We're getting nowhere with these two senators, and I think that was a good question, and I think that everyone deserves an answer why we aren't getting an answer from the senator's office.
Later, we went right next to the nuclear power plant at Indian Point, Buchanan, New York. Where are we in the process now? Has it been approved and is ready to go, or is it still in a...
Well, my understanding is that the Federal Regulatory Agency, FERC, has approved this project, and they have based their approval on the NRC saying that there's no risk to these nuclear power plants behind us. And that approval was based on false information that I contended before the NRC today that was supplied to the NRC from the licensee or Entergy of this Indian Point nuclear facility.
So you've petitioned and you're trying to get them basically now to reverse their approval.
Actually, my petition, because the requirements for the petition have to be to take enforcement action, and the only way I could couch it was to take enforcement action that they violated NRC regulations by providing false information to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
One of your concerns was a concept of closure, that they could close a valve and...
Well, that was my main concern, because in their energy analysis they said they could terminate the gas flow in 3 minutes, and now we find NRC documents that are based on, you know, actual studies by Oak Ridge National Lab that says that if a line blows up, you're probably not going to detect it, know about it, unless there's visual confirmation, probably for hours. And then once you do visually confirm it, it's going to take hours to actually terminate the gas flow. You know, by that time, after hours, you've released more energy than many nuclear bombs, small nuclear bombs. And this gas, you know, coming out around here, down the road 100 yards, can drift anywhere, whether it's exploded gas or whether it's unexploded gas. But the radiant heat, and if you look over here, you can see the switch yard, and that switch yard controls all the power going in and coming out, and the NRC itself acknowledges that the switch yard with a gas explosion would actually be rendered inoperable. That means they got no power coming into the site. The plants obviously would trip, but concurrent with that, we see over here the 250,000 gallon gas tank, which supplies emergency power to the diesel generators. So after a while, we wouldn't have any power at all to the plant after many hours, because both the tank and the switch yard, all AC power, would eventually be lost, and may wind up with a situation that actually caused Fukushima, and that was loss of power. They didn't have any way to power up the pumps to cool the reactors, and that resulted in the meltdown.
There seemed to be a lot of city, state officials at the meeting. Were you encouraged by their interest?
I was very encouraged. I mean, we had Schumer's office represented, we had Gillibrand's office represented, we had Lowy, we had a few other state senators, we had Assemblywoman Galef. We have quite a bit of political attention. I was very pleased that people are now seeing that there are many unanswered questions about the safety of Indian Point with respect to the gas lines.
Maybe the experts are right, and the chances of anything terribly bad happening at Indian Point are really, really remote. But what if the worst does happen? Trillions of dollars of damage? 20 million people in the path of our radioactive plume? Why would anything explosive be allowed within miles of a nuclear power plant? Mad recklessness, brought to you by corporate America. The Greek government folded under the pressure of the bankers and agreed to another big austerity plan so they could get another loan. 50 billion euros of public property will have to be sold off. Sales tax in restaurants will go up to a whopping 23%, and so on. On the 15th, I interviewed Manolis Spathis, who is in Athens. Here's a portion of our talk, the section about demonstrations that broke out against the Syriza government.
Okay, so what we have is that on Monday there was a meeting, quite wide meeting of trade unionists around the public sector, and decided to have a strike on today, on Wednesday, which is the day of the first voting in the parliament. There was a demonstration in the morning, and we're expecting a really massive demonstration in the afternoon, 7:30, outside the parliament. There is a slight possibility, not a slight, there is a possibility that there are going to be many strikes, much more strikes in the future, because Like, for example, the trade union in the port of Piraeus, which is the biggest port of the country, has already was already in strike a few weeks ago when the privatization of the port was announced, and we expect that they're going to strike again, maybe in an all-out strike. We don't know yet.
So right now, who is on strike? Public workers and who else?
Yeah, it's the public sector and some federations of the private sector. For example, it's the power company, they is the name, and the train company, and some smaller ones. But that's the two major.
See the full interview with Spathis on our YouTube channel. Go to our website, click on the top green link to get to it. That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller, and this is The Struggle.